As we showed you earlier, it's a big weekend in Madison. It's homecoming on the UW campus.
We're welcoming Badgers from near and far back to their alma mater, including someone you see regularly here on Live at 4.
Peter Greenberg is the senior travel editor for CBS News. A long way from where your career began, but welcome back to Madison.
Well, it's not really a long way where my career began because it began here.
UW
Absolutely.
School of Journalism, 1967, right?
No.
72.
72 was when
72. That's right. I started in 67.
No, but when you came here.
I got here in 1967. Saw my first cow. No, literally, I saw my first cow. I found out that pop meant soda, things like that, and what the bubbler was.
Why from New York? You grew up in New York.
Yes.
Why'd you come to Madison?
They accepted me. In New York City, in the public school system, they had a budget problem. You could only apply to 3 colleges. Your impossible school, your maybe school, and your slam dunk school. My impossible school is Wesleyan in Middleton, Connecticut. My maybe school, because so many of my friends who were a year older than me had come here and loved it, was Wisconsin. And the slam dunk school is NYU. Well, in April, when the letters came out, I got a letter from Wesleyan that was the most beautifully crafted letter you've ever read, but somewhere in that letter it said, "You can't come here."
That's a classy place.
Right. Then NYU turned me down, my slam dunk school, and luckily enough, because Wisconsin accepted me, my life started here and my career became here.
Where did you live on campus?
I lived in a minimum security prison called Celery Hall.
I lived in Celery, B Tower.
The building is still there.
They just
you know what? Give me some dynamite. It's time. I'm sorry.
They just spent $130 million renovating that.
They're delusional. Let me tell you something. When I stayed there, actually, I went back 2 years ago. I brought my wife. I said, I need you to see something. And I snuck back into Celery Hall. I went up to my room, 415 Eubank Hall, and I knocked on the door, and some sleepy freshman came to the door, and I looked in the room. I said, I lived here? The room was as big as this table, and I had a roommate.
I was in Celery, too, B Tower.
I know. I read that police report. But then I moved over to the west side, West Washington, by the train station. Then I went up to the east side, and then Newsweek hired me because of all the work that we did on the Cardinal, and I became the West Coast correspondent for Newsweek.
Because when you started in journalism, it was a pivotal time on campus. It was the Vietnam War.
More pivotal than that. The University of Wisconsin was the most active, violent campus, anti-war in America, more than Berkeley and Columbia combined. The National Guard hung out at the Capitol. I mean, and every night, my flak jacket, my helmet, we were getting tear gassed Monday through Friday. However, we never had a riot on Saturday because 77,000 people would cram into Camp Randall to watch the Badgers lose. We couldn't win a game. We couldn't win a game, and I'll tell you an amazing story. We're now losing another game. The National Guard has surrounded the campus. They're up on the Capitol, bayonets, tanks, tear gas. They're all waiting, but nobody was rioting because we were at the game, and we were losing. And we were losing something like 17-3 against Iowa. In the last 6 minutes of the game, so you know what's happening. They're throwing Southern Comfort bottles on the field, and the toilet paper's coming because we couldn't win. And then something happened. We recovered a fumble in the end zone, and with 3 minutes left, we scored another touchdown. And then we scored another touchdown. We win 20-17, and 77,000 people come screaming out of Camp Randall, marching up State Street. Wow. The National Guard was not ready for this. And they're looking through the binoculars saying, we didn't know they were going to riot today. Fix bayonets, get the gas register above. And then all of a sudden, the colonel gets on top of his Jeep. Imagine this, right? Looks through his binoculars. He goes, stand down. It's Bucky Badger.
Did you come here to get into journalism, or were you an accidental arrival?
I came here because I was supposed to go to college. And I had a choice. Everybody said, you know, in those days it was 30,000 kids, right? So you have a choice. You can either join the student newspaper or pledge a fraternity. So I went down to Langdon Street, and all of a sudden I see 3 girls standing in front of their sorority house with knee socks and saddle shoes and cans of beer or bottles of beer in their hands singing, "Daddy wanted me to be a Kappa." I ran right to the school paper. You couldn't stop me. I had to go right to the paper. However, I had no political consciousness. The day I walked into the school paper was the Dow Chemical riots. Wow. 165 people in the hospital, tear gas everywhere. I walked in the paper, every window in the paper was broken, right? And I walked in like, I like to join the paper. And they said, good, cover this because you're the only guy standing. I did. I wrote the world's worst story, but they printed it. And in those days, the Daily Cardinal was 32 pages long every day. We were the primary campus paper. We were the primary city paper. people took notice of us in the mainstream media. The Cardinal took me on, and the rest is history.
And you heard that somebody say, read your story, and you were hooked.
Oh, yeah. Well, no. I woke up in Celery Hall the next morning, and people said, hey, how are you? I went, oh, big man on campus. I wrote a story. I said, I'm doing this.
And the rest
is history.
So what's it like to come back to campus?
It's always great to come back because as much as Madison has changed and all the development, all the real estate that's happened, so much of it hasn't, right? And, you know, I still want to go to the Memorial Union and have my fudge bottom pie, right? I still want to go out. I miss Smokies.
Yeah?
Yeah, Smokies is gone.
It's gone.
But you know what? I still can find my cheese curds. I still can find some really great meals. And when I was here, the one thing, thankfully, that has changed, the definition of sautéed was deep fried. When I was here, you had paisans and garganos, and that was it. Now it's a gastronomic revolution. You cannot find a bad meal in Madison. I'm sorry, and it's great, and I love it. Yeah.
It's amazing how much it's changed, though, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. I mean,
it's always home.
It's always
still
home,
feels like
and I
home.
want you to know that at the game, I'll be wearing my leather jacket.
You have a letter jacket?
I have a leather jacket, a real one.
Did you play a sport?
No. They actually gave it to me when I graduated, and it's a real leather jacket, not the ones you buy in the store. I mean, it's the one that's got the big furry thing. Because I had lettered in non-attendance. I'm not kidding. The deans chipped in. They did. They chipped in and got me this jacket, and it still fits, and I'm wearing it tomorrow.
That's the rest of the story. Peter, great to see you again.
Mark, as always.
Welcome home.
Happy New Year's.
Welcome home.
Happy homecoming.
Yes, now let's win a game.
Yeah,
All right.
but that's a great story because people don't remember it wasn't always like this.
Oh, no.
We went through a rough period.
Very rough.
Yes.
All right. We'll be right back.